Welcome to Military Matters, hosted by retired Major Ricky Harold and Lieutenant Colonel George Fleck. This is a show about, for, and everything regarding veterans. We're all about the issues impacting the lives of our military brothers and sisters, and our mission is to always be insightful, factual, and thought-provoking. 10 Hut!
Hey, welcome back to Military Matters. We have some great guests today, but I also want to bring shout out to Ryan Gershman, who's Concerned Veterans for America. They're a great nonprofit that works for our veterans to help our veterans and their families, and it's a way for information about veterans to the community and to the nation. So I want to introduce our two guests today. Great guests. We've had them on our show, our radio show, on many times, but this will be the the second time from our podcast. Jay Baker and Ken Schulz, and they're from Workers for Warriors, or Warriors for Workers, right?
Work for Warriors.
For Warriors. I was close.
I
mean, I've talked to you guys so many times, but anyway, so if you guys could introduce yourself to our audience out here, explain to them what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and really most important, we always like you to introduce yourself, kind of give us a little bio. It doesn't have to be more than a couple minutes of your military career, what you did, why you did it, and how you did it. So if you want to start, Ken, why don't you kind of give us a little synopsis on your military?
Oh, certainly. So I enlisted in the Coast Guard, 1978. Did 5 years with the Coast Guard. Loved every minute. It was a great experience. Got to travel to Alaska, Michigan, California.
All the hot spots.
Oh, you bet. Yeah. It was great. Alaska was. I would have loved to stay up there. It was wonderful. After I left the Coast Guard, I just kind of knocked around and got a job with the casinos, worked for Caesars International for about 15 years. And then...
Is that as glamorous as it sounds or not?
Yes and no. There were times it was very glamorous. I was in a position to where I, quote, got to hobnob with a lot of celebrities, and especially at Caesars Palace. They had quite a few of the fights going on, the big fights back in the 80s. It was interesting to see.
So the high personalities and people were there, right?
Oh, yeah.
A-listers?
Oh, you bet. Yeah. And so then met my wife, fortunately, and we decided to head on out of Vegas. It was just getting a little bit too much up there, and came up, and I transferred up to Caesars Tahoe and did the same thing. I was in the casino cage and dealt with all the high rollers, the celebrity golf people, and everything in between. Then fortunately, our son was born, and I just had a change of perspective. And I said, this is not the life for a father, this 24/7 kind of life that I live, because I worked every shift.
You were burning both ends of the candle.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. So then I got back into what I was doing in the Coast Guard. I was doing HR for the state for 24 years. So retired from there 3 years ago. Kind of kicked around for a year. My wife said, you're pretty darn bored. You better get a job. So I worked at the local Meals on Wheels in Carson City and delivered meals to the seniors, and that was very rewarding. Then so happened, by chance, I was just plugging around on Indeed, and lo and behold, there was a position that Jay had advertised for Work for Warriors, and I had the pleasure of working with Jay when I was with the state. I was in the recruitment section with the state for Division of Human Resource Management, and we would just run into each other at events, at job fairs and the like, and called him up and said, "Is that position still open?" He said, "Yep, you can apply." Here we are.
Wow.
It's been a great ride.
So you've been doing this now for 2 years?
No, I started in January.
So it's been just 9 months.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It seems like you've been here longer than that.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Maybe it just feels longer.
Yeah. But this is this is 180 from what I was doing with the state. It's great because I don't have to say no. There's no closed door. We help veterans, and if we can't help them, we will point them in the direction that whatever resource they may need.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, you bet.
So now, Jay, can you give us a little synopsis on yourself?
Sure. I joined the Navy in 1988. I became a corpsman, and soon after I went the SARC route. I was a Navy SARC for about just shy of 20 years. I've worked all around the country, been to 48 different countries, 6 different continents, circumferentially around the world a few times. It's been a very, very wonderful ride. Once I picked up 9, I had to ride a desk, became a command master chief at a schoolhouse in the Naval Medical Center. And through it all, I think one of the greatest parts of my career is I was able to help people. And when I retired, we moved back here to Reno so my wife could be near her family, and just kind of fell into Work for Warriors. And it was just a wonderful way of continuing to help my brothers and sister vets get back on their feet and help them provide for their families.
So you basically, in the military for your 30-some years, you were in the medical field?
Yes, sir. I guess the common term is Special Operations Combat Medic. So I got to have fun for about 20 years, and then
you had to ride a desk.
I got promoted, unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand that. It's like being a platoon leader, and then all of a sudden you're a company commander, and then after that you become battalion. And then it's all paperwork,
It goes from calluses to paper cuts.
Yeah,
really
go from a trigger puller to a pencil pusher.
Absolutely.
It's a big difference. You chalk up the wins and losses with a pencil. It's
an interesting transition.
Yeah, it's a big transition. That's true. So I appreciate your synopsis of your military. I know you're kind of humble, Jay, because if you make it in the military, you're the top of the top, and that's kind of like making a star as officer, and that's a very privileged position. So I know that you earned it, and that we're appreciative for your service. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. Go on and talk about what you actually do today for our veterans, because you got Work for Warriors, and that's your job today, and that's helping the local community here with our veterans, and not just them, but their family members as well.
It's a wonderful opportunity. We're a federally funded program, and we're affiliated with the National Guard, but we help veterans, National Guardsmen, and their family members. We help them with job searching. We help them with resume creation, interview preparation, just the whole employment gambit. And like Ken said, we work with a lot of other veteran agencies that are around the area, and we help link veterans or National Guardsmen up with the various resources that they need that could help them take care of their families, find medical care, do VSOs, that type of thing.
Yeah, we might kind of want to give us an explanation of some of the volunteer service organizations and officers, because a lot of our veterans out there, believe it or not, they don't know about any of these services. They don't even know about the VSOs. They don't even know about what veterans, except that they know that there's a Veterans Administration, and that if they can get a veteran's ID card, and you guys can help them somewhat with channeling their abilities to go to people that can help them through the VA get their disability ratings and that kind of stuff. But it's important to know that you can't just live off of VA rating. You got to have a job, you got to be able to have employment, you have to be able to take care of your family, and that's what you guys do for our veterans, right?
Oh yeah, we definitely help them get those jobs. And the funny thing about, or not the funny thing, but the wonderful thing about Nevada is they are very veteran friendly. So if a veteran in this area is, experiencing difficulties, having problems with substance abuse or lack of employment or whatever problem they're facing, there are agencies in this area that can help them. And we do the employment piece, but like I said, we can link them up with other resources to help them find the help that they need. And
those resources are what they have no clue about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that the military and the National Guard, well, they have you as a resident expert, but as far as getting the information out to our veterans through the community, like this radio station does that, because we do that for our veterans at no cost to the VA or to the federal government. But it's unfortunate that the federal government, even with its vast resources, it doesn't really have an organization that does this, that tells our veterans on a daily basis what they got coming. And they just don't do that. And, I've got my own reasons and opinions about why they don't do that, but because Congress appropriates the money and the government spends the money and the government creates the programs.
Right.
But there's nobody out there that publicizes the programs. There's, we have organizations that put things out in the public sphere through the radio, through television, through your World Wide Web and that kind of stuff. But if you don't know where the source material is, you're never going to see it. Unless ABC or CBS or NBC says on such and such a day, on such and such a time, we have this 5-minute program for veterans. And they do that on a consistent basis. Veterans got no clue. That would be the only way that people could have a resource a public resource funded by people's money to help veterans out there get information. Kind of like Work for Warriors. Tell them why you're there, your phone number, what you do for them, and how you do it. I mean, there's just no program out there that I'm aware of that does that. I think that's, unfortunately, that's a lapse in our government agencies' ability to help our veterans. We say we want to help our veterans. We do programs for our veterans, but we don't show them how to get to those programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that information dissemination is a very big issue.
Yeah, communications is huge, but not just communication, constant. You know, you've got to, every month, every year, every decade, you got to hit that hard, because there's new people, there's people passing away, there's new people coming in, there's people whose their life has changed in either a positive or a negative way, and they need assistance that they may not have needed when they got out of the service, or until they maybe lost a job, or their health situation changed radically. Then those resources become very important to them, but they don't know about it.
Right.
And this is kind of where you guys step in to help our veterans. So Ken, kind of tell us what you do in your programs to help our veterans.
Well, we rely on, we have social media platforms as well, Facebook, Instagram, our website. And we rely basically a lot on word of mouth, especially within the Guard units, the Air Guard and the Army Guard units. A lot of word of mouth, and with our community partners too. Our community partners are a great resource. They are forever sending people our way, which is great. Bring them on. We love to help our veterans. So we have them register on our website, www.workforwarriorsnv.org. There's a little registration there, and it could be with the Northern team, which is Jay and I, or our Southern team. We have 4 individuals down there in Las Vegas. So on the registration form, there's a questionnaire of sorts where they'll say what kind of services they need, what kind of job they're looking for, what's their salary requirements, etc. And we'll talk about all that after we pull them in, either by phone, by Zoom, in person, and we'll talk about all those things and kind of dial in what their needs are. If they have resumes built already, we'll review those. If we can help them in any way in improving it, we'll certainly do that. If they don't have a resume at all, we'll build it from scratch.
Well, that's great especially for our veterans out there who, they're wearing a BDU for 10, 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden they got to put on a suit and tie or a casual wear that's appropriate for business attire.
Correct.
They don't know any of this stuff, right?
No, but for the majority, they don't. They don't. Or their resumes are very cursory.
Be kind of like going into a corporate room with a leisure outfit.
I had a leisure suit.
I do. That was the first suit I ever had besides my military Class A uniform. So I'm really talking about myself here.
Yeah. So so don't be dissing leisure suits, okay? And after we get that resume completed, we'll ask them, what do you really want to do?
The most difficult question for them to answer.
What do you really want to do? Because your career in say if you were in infantry in the Army, not many jobs out there that are related to infantry. We'll have to take little bits and pieces from what their, say, ancillary duties may be if they had a different MOS at some point, and try and match them up with jobs, or try and get them in at an entry level in any job if the employer will allow for that kind of applicant to come onto their business.
Certainly. I mean, when we talk about a combat infantryman, people don't realize that there's 11 soldiers that support that one infantryman, from combat support to ancillary support to supply support. I mean, there's a whole list of MOSs that do nothing but support that one trigger puller. I mean, so just think of 88 Mike, a guy who drives trucks. It doesn't sound like a glorious job, but somebody has to get the supplies to the front line, and those are the guys and gals who drive trucks.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of those people, after they get out of the trigger pulling business while they're still in service, they go into those combat support roles. So there's always going to be something besides, taking, being a trigger puller, going out there and doing, rah-rah stuff in the field.
It's just a matter of extracting that from them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that
Because they don't even think about it, really.
No, they don't.
It doesn't even cross their mind.
No.
And of course, they're using everything in military acronyms, which doesn't relate necessarily to civilian speak.
no.
And
No.
you've got to be able to pull that out of them and kind of translate that into something that somebody works in a garage at the motor pool in the military, but now they're getting out of the service. They can be a garage mechanic, or they could be working for a big rig place working on diesel, all kinds of stuff that they don't even realize that they have that ability, and they've had the basics. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is learn the new terminology as well as
right.
And then of course the company's going to teach them how to do it, when to do it, and where to do it.
Right.
And they're not going to walk in and say, "Oh, I'm a diesel I'm a diesel engine mechanic." There ain't a lot of those around.
No, no, and that's there's dozens of openings for those. In fact, I've been just recently working with one of the veterans, was a Marine. He diesel mechanic. So I'm pointed him to several of the companies. They're down in Sparks on Greg Street.
Happy to get him.
Oh yeah, yep, and he knows his stuff, and a very personable young man, and he'd be a pleasure for anybody to he's squared away. Yeah, squared away guy. So
well, I guess one of the things that I like to talk about when it comes to our veterans, and Jay puts it in really, good perspective, is that when you talk about a military person coming out of the service and going into civilian life, two things that the employer can always count on: one, they're going to be squared away; two, they're going to show up and actually work and not be on their cell phone 8 hours of the 8-hour day. So this is a big boon for them, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of employers now are complaining about the fact that so many people don't want to show up on time, don't want to work full time, and they don't have the structure to be effective when they're in the workplace. And the military folks bring that to the table, which is a wonderful skill set.
Yeah, so it's a plus for them, right?
Absolutely. And you'd be surprised at how many skills the military folks have getting out of the military, even infantry support, regardless of what it is, how many skills they have that actually go in line with a lot of the companies out there.
Yeah, and Jay, could you kind of elaborate on that? Because I think a lot of our veterans and our listeners out there aren't sure what that is.
You'd be surprised how many people come in and have that struggle when it comes to writing their resumes. But take an infantry person that we were talking about earlier. They have leadership, they have communication skills, they have tactics, they have even inventory, they have QA to a certain degree, they have administrative skills. There's a lot of different things they bring to the table depending on what their job was in that platoon.
Correct. Yeah, and every infantryman has to know his TO&E.
Absolutely.
Better sort it out. And if you don't have it, the supply sergeant's gonna get it out of your pay.
I'll lose that poncho liner.
right, we were did a visit to one of the warehouses here in the area, and that was all what Jay said was emphasized by the operations manager, that it's to get people that get off their phones and just knuckle down and work. He's Sergeant Major, was he not?
He was retired.
Retired Sergeant Major. So he looks for leaders and someone that can move up. So if someone comes in entry level, if they stick to their guns and they do a great job, they'll be recognized and they'll move up the ladder
Very quickly. Military tends to move up quite quickly.
Yeah.
Well, because they've already went to basic training, they've already went to advanced technical training, whatever that might be, and that all gives them structure. It gives them a focus on what their MOS is, or their AFSE. Regardless of what their rating is, it gives them a path by which their job proficiency has to be applicable to. So I agree with you when it comes to civilian life. I guess the biggest thing for me in civilian life was, oh my gosh, now I have to put on a different set of clothes every day. I never thought about that in my 36 years in the military. I just knew what I was going to wear.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't do that in civilian life. No. Everything comes down to proper apparel that you're going to wear for the situation.
And it's actually not as hard as a lot of people think, though. You buy a few wardrobe apparel, and you can switch them out to make it look like you're wearing different outfits, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, but when it comes, I never did understand having to have 4 or 5 sets of shoes. I never got that.
We should talk about accessorizing in our interview workshops.
We do.
Well, why don't you explain that to them? Accessorizing and dress for success, because these are important things for getting a job and keeping a job, for that matter.
It all depends on the industry you're going into. So it could vary depending on if you're going into a retail job, a corporate job, a IT job, a mechanic job. All these different agencies and industries have different dress apparel and different expectations when it comes to dress.
Well, sure. Yeah, because it's based upon the job, right?
Absolutely.
It's the type of work that you're going to do. Yeah.
And most companies expect you to be in business, either business casual or some form of casual attire, especially like the warehouse and the logistics arenas. When you get into corporate America, then you start getting into the suits. And when you start buying things and buying your clothes accessories, there are so many stores out there that make it easy for you.
Yep. Okay, so what about the guy who gets right out of the service? He's only done 3 years in. He knows what he wore in high school. Not quite sure what you wear because maybe he's had a couple of college classes, but that's about it. He gets out, and then he doesn't have any money to buy nice apparel. So what does he do? How can you guys help him?
So the first thing is you have to, like you said, check and look at your finances and find out where you're at financially to find out how you can plan your wardrobe. However, there are certain agencies out there like Nation's Finest. They do have a clothes closet, and some other agencies out there that I have to get the name for you, but they do offer certain things like suits and certain business casual for men and women if they are short on clothes. And what I suggest is just every payday, buy one article of clothing.
Oh, that's a good tip.
You can build it up over time.
And you don't need to go to Macy's. You can go to Kohl's or one of the other retailers. You don't need anything super fancy.
Yeah, but it looks decent.
Looks decent. I mean, I wore a suit when I worked for the casinos for, those 15 years. And yeah, I didn't go all out on them. I bought very practical, suits and the shirts and the ties and everything. So yeah.
I'm a clearance rack guy. Everything I
There
bought
you
has
go.
been on sale.
There
and
you go.
It all looks fine.
Yeah.
It's all about smart shopping.
When I was in the bureau, we had to wear a suit and tie, which is very uncomfortable in the field,
That would be awkward.
Yeah. I mean, unless we're on a task force or something, then we got to wear jumpsuits and stuff like that. But we're formal jumpsuits,
Right.
but nonetheless.
Well, if someone's just getting out, though, you definitely want to buy at least one suit.
Yeah.
And there are many stores out there, whether Men's Warehouse or JCPenney or things like that, or stores like that you can get a decent suit for a decent price that you can wear for your interviews. But most people that get out of the military are not going to be wearing suits on a daily basis. Yes, the FBI, yes, some of the corporate America, but most companies do not require suits.
Oh, yeah, that's true. As a matter of fact, a lot of corporate jobs that used to wear suits don't anymore.
Business casual.
Business casual.
Right. Business casual is nothing more than nice shoes, leather shoes, khaki pants, and a button-down collar shirt.
So, like, I always like to say on a radio show and now here on my podcast, could you guys give your name, your phone number, and your email address so that our people out there who are listening to this podcast in the future will have that information?
Absolutely. And please feel free to reach out to us. Even if we're not the one that takes care of your immediate need, we can at least link you up with other resources. My name is Jay Baker. My email is James, JAMES.BAKER @workforwarriorsnv.org. And my phone number is
Yes, and my name is Ken Schulz, Schulz. No T.
Good German name.
Yeah, jawohl.
Just like the sergeant.
Yeah. My email address is ken.r.schulz@workforwarriorsnv.org, and my phone number is 775-384-5813. And we are, if anybody wants to just pop on by, we're at the Plum Lane Armory. That's at 685 East Plum Lane. That is right next to the Little Flower Catholic Church.
That's right. Yeah. You guys have an entranceway that just has a little bit of fence right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's easier to go into the wrong lane before the other because it's a little wider.
Yep.
Yeah. You have and the other thing about Plum Lane is that it's only from one direction. You can't reach it from the westbound. You can only get it from the eastbound direction.
Correct.
Yeah. But yeah, it's right there at the Armory for those who don't know where that is, on Plum Lane off of Kitski.
Alpha Kids. Right?
Kitski and Plum, yeah. That's where it's at. So speaking of your service for Jay, what was one of the interesting things that happened to you in your 48 country extraordinaire situations? Anything that pops out to you that was memorable that you never forgot, or maybe I should say you never forgave?
Yeah, we've had some interesting times throughout my career. We did a lot of small team unit tactics, unit missions, and it was a lot of fun. Probably, if I had to pick one that's a funny one for me, is I had to fight some emus when I had a bad parachute landing in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, we were coming down. We were jumping for about just shy of 30,000 feet. We were jumping out. I had a malfunction, so I had to do a cutaway, and that put me quite a ways away from my team.
LZ?
Oh yeah, I was a long way from the LZ. And when I was going down, I heard of emus below me, and so I said, "Hey man, let's just start playing with them." So as they turned left, I turned left. As they turned right, I turned right. So I just kind of played around with them until I landed. And it was like a scene out of West Side Story. These emus were like, "Oh, you're not a big bird of prey." So they came over and introduced themselves to me, and we had a little bit of a squabble until the DZ truck got over there and picked me up, and it was quite an interesting day.
So whereabouts in Western Australia were you?
So we were about, I'd say maybe 5 or 10 miles away from Woomera, which is there's a smaller Air Force base there in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, I spent 3 months in the outback, up there by the Indian. Well, it is the Indian Ocean up there. A place called Exmouth. Okay. I don't know if you know where that is or not, but
I think so.
It's literally on the coast. It's got the only airfield that'll take jets. At least it did at the time. And of course, we were like 600 miles from Perth.
Been there as well. Been to Perth, Canberra, Melbourne.
Yeah,
Sydney.
we didn't get to go. I mean, I've been to those places, but I didn't get to do that when I was wearing a uniform. So that wasn't really one of the things. I learned all the things that could kill you out there, though. There's a lot of stuff out there that can kill you. And unfortunately, we had tons of kangaroos, and they'd jump out in front of you, and you'd hit them, and then you'd have to go into the pouch, check the pouch, and if it had a little baby kangaroo, you had to kill it because it would either die or suffer, or some other critter would come out and eat it. So, yep. I mean, it's pretty primitive. I mean, and there's not a lot of people out in Western Australia.
No, if you get out in the burbs, it's,
no, you get out
there.
Outback is really pretty empty. Yeah, not a lot of folk.
Yeah, we jumped out at night and you couldn't see any lights around us.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I never wanted to jump out in Western Australia. I was afraid of what I'd fall into.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely the Twilight Zone out there.
Yeah.
It's.
You will find creatures over there that you didn't know existed.
I know. I've seen some of them. I even took a picture of one. Matter of fact, the best picture I ever took, and I still have it, is when I went on a river, a cruise up by Darwin, and it's canyons and stuff where the river's at. And this guy said, "I want to show you what fishing is in Australia." So this guy takes a pole out, has a hook with like 3 or 4 hooks on it, nothing else, throws it into the water. 5 seconds later, he gets a pull on it. There's like 4 fish on this hook.
Good Lord.
And there's no bait. There's nothing. It was just, I had to take a picture. I said, nobody would ever believe this fish story because it was true. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. And it kind of reminds me when I was stationed at a place called Tyndall Air Force Base up in Panama City, Florida. And they were talking about back in the 18th century, in the 1850s and 60s, when it was just a little fishing village and stuff. They said that they had oysters that would float up to the shore that the size of big rocks. I mean, oysters that were like 3-4 handfuls. And you say, well, what are you talking about? And they would actually show us the shells because there was no natural predators for them. And so the natural predator became mankind, of course. But that's just the way the wilderness is. I mean, if there's no predator, there's just an amazing amount of flora and fauna out there. It just really is. So you got to watch where you walk.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really important because if you don't, it could be bad news bears for you.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly true. So Australia was an interesting one. So any others?
South America was really interesting. Africa was really interesting. It depends on what you're looking for. We've had so many different things happen in our career that was just absolutely amazing. That like you said, you just get amazed at the terrain. I'll tell you a funny one.
Okay, tell me a funny one.
Well, maybe it's a bad one, but we're doing a insertion into.
Well,
Northern
if it's
Africa.
bad, we can always exit out.
I thought the emu was kind of funny.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
word is that emu from Liberty Mutual came from Australia.
I hope he wasn't one that came after me,
I don't know. It's nothing like, they talk about wildebeests out in Africa.
right?
Yeah, they come in herds.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to be there when that herd takes a 180 degree and turns toward you, because they'll stomp you to death.
Didn't work out for the Lion King.
Yeah. Not quite like animation, but but yeah.
Yeah, we did.
No, go ahead. So you tell
Funny
me your
story.
story.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so we
you.
did an insertion in Northern Africa, and it was the middle of the night. There was nobody around us, no lights to be seen. We dropped us off about 2,000 meters off the coast. We swam in under the cover of darkness, got in there, did some patrolling, found a big clump of trees, bedded down for the night, get up in the morning. We had about a 5-mile patrol to the objective. And we look outside the trees, and there's a couple of guys sitting on a rock. We're like, what in the world? And they're just staring at us. And so we're like, well, should we make contact? We're not supposed to link up with anybody. Were they bad guys? Who are these guys? And we ended up walking over to them and finding out what they were doing. It's like, hey, can we help you? Like, yeah, we want to know if you guys want to buy hashish. You want me to buy drugs? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, how in the world did you know we're here? He says, well, the whole country knows you're here.
Whoa.
I'm like, well, how does everybody know we're here? We came in. He's like, well, we saw everything. And this is in the middle of nowhere, no houses, no buildings or anything. And we had a DoorDash for drugs. It was interesting.
How did they see everything?
I don't know. We still couldn't figure that out.
Maybe they got used NVGs.
That was way before Afghanistan.
Yeah, okay. Well, I had an interesting story when we did Bright Star over there in Egypt. I was there for that. And
But that was interesting.
yeah, that was. It was long 3 weeks, I'll tell you that. But the interesting thing about it was so we had 2 days off. Out of 3 weeks, we got 2 days off. And so I got tricked by my fellow pilots into, they said, well, how it's like a camel ride. I don't know if anybody knows about camels, but they're the meanest, nastiest, tough critters.
They can be
tough
tough.
critters. And they love to throw their cut at you and stuff like that. But so they said, hey, we're going to have a little camel race. We're going to take from where we were at in this village just north of Alexandria. And they said, we're going to have a camel ride to Alexandria and back. Well, I knew Alexandria wasn't close, but I didn't think it was that far, right? So I said, like an idiot, like a young lieutenant idiot, I said, sure. So me and this other idiot gets on this camel, and we raced to Alexandria and back. 42 miles
Oh, my Lord.
Whoa.
on the back of a camel. My exterior hurt for weeks. And my other parts of my body were like black and blue too. So it was, and you can't get off these critters. Okay, when they're in their trouncing running mode. Yeah, they're kind of, well, they don't really gallop, they kind of lope. But yeah,
I
you
can
can
only
say
imagine
gallop.
the saddle.
My God, it was bad.
Yeah.
And of course, when we get back, we heard every camel jockey joke you could ever hear. And we were living proof of that. So that was not one of my brightest moments in the military, but I learned that was a hard lesson to learn, literally.
Yeah.
So Jay and Ken, now what are some of your partner employers that you guys are tied in with?
We try to meet as many employers as we can. Everything from Tesla, Panasonic to Vistar, S&K Food Groups, Webster Store, Sherwin-Williams, as many companies as you can think of. We try to meet and make contact with the county, the city, the state, federal employers like the VA, hospital, DAV, just all kind of agencies out here. And a lot of them are looking for veteran employees, believe it or not.
Is the current employment market up or down or just kind of sideways?
Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't got much feedback from some of my clients. They say they're out there applying away, and
Do they tell you when they get a job?
Oh, most certainly.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to pull it out of them. They forget.
But the people that you're referring to, don't they come back and tell you that they hired people? Or what's the feedback that you guys get from the employers?
I
A lot of them.
personally haven't gotten any feedback from the actual employer.
A lot of ones I've talked to, they've been very happy with the veteran employees.
Yeah. So yeah.
So no news is good news. Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
Right.
And, one thing that you keep in mind is with the current economy, the way it's going, it's up or down with employment, but there's always companies looking for employees. It all depends on what qualifications the employee brings to the table. But there's always companies out there looking for jobs, to fill jobs.
This area is huge with the warehousing.
Oh, yeah, because it's all moved out from East Bay.
Right.
Lock, stock, and barrel is all moved.
And, I have a lot of my veterans that are coming through, and that's what they want. So I says, hey, we'll find you something. There's umpteen dozen different companies that are looking for warehousing. If you have fork experience, that's all the better. So, yeah.
I see
logistics,
on the website also that you guys have events. So let's talk about these. So virtual job fairs, is there anyone coming up, and how do they find this? Is it just through the website, or how do you guys go?
Yeah, so we haven't scheduled a virtual website in a while. We're getting ready to start doing that again.
Okay.
We also do job fairs at the various armories around the area. What we do is we try to invite as many employers as we can. We put the word out via Facebook, via emails, via the Gram, or whatever other resources we have out there. Sometimes it's in all kinds out to the to National Guard members, trying to get the information out as much as possible. Sometimes we go to other events sponsored by other agencies like the VA or National or the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, et cetera, just to be a representative for the vets while they're there.
And then have you guys, what's a DPS testing event?
So DPS is the Department of Public Safety. That's the state testing.
Right, that's the state testing for any of the parole probation officers and or the Nevada State Police, as they're called now, instead of the.
What kind of
so the law enforcement positions?
Are you guys experiencing any kind of age limitations as far as like I'm 62, like I shouldn't be.
Well, every agency,
every
agency
probably applying for something like this, right?
Right. Every agency has its limitations on age, and the reason why is because
safety.
Well, safety. It's also longevity. There's a lot of factors that play into that, but it all depends on the agency. Some do have waivers, some do not.
But somebody coming in off the street, first and foremost, they got to meet all the qualifications, as you know, a post, and of course there's a psych test, and then of course the interview. They want to make sure they have the right fit.
Yeah, for sure.
They do a psych test for law enforcement now?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Some profile, yeah.
It was overdue.
Well, when I was early on in my state career, I worked at Department of Corrections, and I did all the physical testing, which was fun.
Yeah, and I was raised with law enforcement too. It's quite the club.
So, yeah, and after they did all the running and jumping and all that stuff, they'd go in and go for the panel, and then probably 1 out of 3 would make it. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, yeah. So and DPS is hurting. What's holding them back, and it's not their fault; they can't help it. But they only have 2 academies a year. Mm-hmm. And
that's all. That's not a lot.
And same with Reno PD.
Is that because of money?
More than likely. I haven't delved into it to find out the exact reasons. That's something I can ask their sworn recruiter about. Why don't you have a quarterly? Maybe it's just they don't have enough instructors, or just the way that it's structured. Yeah, who's to say? But City of Reno PD is only 2 academies a year. So I would imagine then Marshall County.
How about Sparks PD?
See, I don't know who they go through. Honestly, I've never talk to anybody from there.
Well, the Post Academy is the one up by TMCC on Far.
Right. For those guys, yeah.
Yeah, but with the psych test, I mean, because you're FBI experienced, but most people don't understand that law enforcement, you have to have a very strong personality, very strong, discipline and willingness to be able to go into a either hostile situation or a conflicting situation and deal with it accordingly. And a lot of folks don't realize the patience and the discipline and the just the absolute gumption that these police officers and law enforcement people have to do their job and still remain at an even keel and then go home to their families afterwards without ill effect.
What surprised me was my fellow recruit cadets when I went to Quantico. Most of them were lawyers. They'd all got their law degrees. Okay, so they were smart as hell, but they didn't know anything about PT. They didn't know anything about any physical stuff. And the good thing is they never fired a weapon, so you didn't have to untrain them anything. But yeah, I was surprised how most of them passed the psych test because they for me, they were kind of Looney Tunes.
Depends on what the criteria is, why they may pass. But so like with all you guys, sitting here with a bunch of badasses, but Jay specifically, with what you're doing and the adjustment that you had to make to civilian life after all these missions and stuff that you were, talking about, how do you use that empathy that you experience to help, and can also comment,
right.
how do you use that empathy to help them bridge that difficult transition from military to civilian?
Mentorship. We try to discuss it with them and let them know some of the expectations they're going to run into. That way they can mentally prepare.
Right.
Believe it or not, a majority of the stress getting out of the military is just the unknown, because a majority of it, as long as we can get rid of the military dark humor, because a lot of civilian companies don't appreciate the military dark humor, but a lot of us, it's just dealing with people. Every job you go to is just dealing with people. It's just a different side of people in the civilian world. Where in the military, you can pick on each other relentlessly, and for the most part, it's taken in good humor. In the civilian realm, that humor is not necessarily well received. Yeah,
we were talking about that on our podcast yesterday about how, again, growing up in the 70s, we would show up to school early to hang out with everybody to make fun of each other. And it was like a contest of who could come up with the biggest, best cap on somebody or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you never got your feelings hurt. So now,
well, we never cared about people's feelings.
Well, I guess my point is for keeping that tradition alive,
right.
Don't stop.
I'm the oldest guy here, and I graduated in 1971 from high school. So we still had I was one of the last classes that we had clothing restrictions. You had, there were certain things, apparel that you could wear, and we didn't wear uniforms, but we had restrictions on what you could wear. Yep. I mean, there was vice principals out there with rulers to check the gals to make sure that their dresses were, so many inches from the knee and all. I mean, that was a daily thing. I don't think that we understood the vice president's job other than checking girls' skirts. Maybe they liked that. I don't know.
You guys back then, sneaking these socks in your pockets and stuff like that,
I mean, we didn't even have dogs that went through and checked for drugs or something. I mean, the worst thing in the world was somebody that might have had rumored that they smoked a joint. But other than that, there wasn't anything. There was nothing with pills. There was nothing like that. And I grew up in the city of Los Angeles. Oh, wow. I'm not talking about, some rural bumfreck place out in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking right there in the inner city of Los Angeles. And so, but it wasn't like that at all. Things changed, and after they got rid of the dress code, they got rid of all this stuff. That all happened after I graduated. I was, what we called community college, or we called it JV college, junior varsity college. You know what we call that? High school with ashtrays.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what we called it for. It was a 2-year degree, which a lot of those people were smart because they got in there, they did their 2 years, and then they transferred to a 4-year school, and they
cheaper
juniors. And it was much more. Me, like the idiot stuff. Myself, I went all 4 years to college, from a freshman all the way to senior.
Were you in a frat?
I was for a year. Yeah. I was a teak. It's really bad too. But
what's the worst thing you guys did?
Well, we had toga parties that were notorious.
Yeah.
Like back in the Animal House days?
Yeah. Matter of fact, one of the guys who wrote the book for Animal House was one of our chapter guys.
How funny. Yeah, so he modeled it. Yeah.
After he modeled it after us.
Yeah.
Just to set the record straight, I did research it. The Germans did not bomb Pearl Harbor.
That's right. They did not. Yeah. Just for the record. Well, that's all right, because these kids today think it was the Brits.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Brits, Pearl, and then they say, well, who did we fight in the Revolutionary War? They say somebody said the Germans.
Oh, wow.
But actually we did fight the Germans, the Hessians, so we did. So that was kind of partially. But my favorite one was, no, we fought the Canadians. That was my favorite. We fought the Canadians.
Schools are in trouble, guys.
This is college students. We're not talking about elementary here, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it when someone, say you have a 30-year, veteran coming out. When they went in, of course, 90s, they're coming out now. Of course, a lot has changed since then. It's just getting them back used to it.
It would seem like they would actually struggle more than, say, somebody that was, coming out when they're 24 to 28, right?
Right.
One thing that helped me that I'd suggest to them as well is I took about 10 months off from the time I retired to the time I got a job.
What did you do?
I relaxed.
Oh,
The amount of stress that comes off when you take that uniform off for the last time is absolutely mind-boggling.
yeah.
And it gave me a chance to reset, gave me a chance to spend some time with my family, make up for some lost time. I could actually go to Walmart and PT Gear drinking a soda on the cell phone without having to feel guilty.
Yeah, I took about 3 months off and traveled back from Michigan to I grew up in Boulder City and down south of here. So, and that was good.
That's a nice community, isn't it?
Clean grain,
Yeah.
so they call it.
Isn't that where Mork and Mindy?
No, that's Boulder.
Boulder. Okay.
Boulder, Colorado.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I knew.
yeah. So yeah, like Jason, it's good to have that. And when I retired from the state, like I say, I kicked around for a year. We have some property in Utah. Went up there a lot. Just kind of relaxed and got reset. And then
Hey, since you were in the casino business all that time, what do you think about Pritzker's $1.4 million blackjack win?
I hadn't heard about that.
What?
Yet. No.
Tell him, Ricky.
No.
Oh yeah, apparently goes on this jaunt to Las Vegas, or as I always call Las Wages, and he goes there as the governor of Illinois. He goes there for like a week, and he goes to the high rollers section.
Right.
At I think it's at Caesars is where he goes, and he won. He played blackjack, and he won over a period of a couple of days. He walked away with Caesar's money. Well, actually, it's not Caesar's; it's the other player's money.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but. He walked away with $1.4 million.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
the question is, with the table limits,
Nicely done.
you get to 1.4 million and
That's pure
100 grand
pure luck.
a hand, really.
Well, it depends on the limits because they had at the time when I was working there, they had a special room.
I started to say you can
I
make
was
special
gonna say, yeah.
concessions.
Now that's not so much because
The dude's a
gaming
billionaire.
control board. Yeah, he's
100,000 a hand. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
No, gosh,
That's probably the juice for him. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
Oh yeah, and
If not more.
we had guys that come over from Hong Kong and whatever the whales, as you coin it, and they're dropping $250 a hand, easy, and they would have the like you see in the James Bond movies, the
You're talking
the tiles.
250,000.
Oh yeah,
Wow, $250,000 a hand.
and not even blink, not
Wow.
even blink.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it
It
was.
is. I don't know. In a way.
But the way we had to look at it is this is not money;
Yeah.
it's nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Because if you
It's
thought
just
of it as
tiles.
if you thought of it as money, you'd go crazy. And I mean, I remember times when we would get deliveries in from Loomis Armored or whatever, from the bank, and we'd be getting
Armored car company. Well,
$5 million at a pop to load up for the weekend.
I had to interview lots of people for bank robberies, and I was amazed at these clerks because I knew what they made for a salary. Right, they would make $12,000-$15,000 a year salary, and every day they had more than that in their till. Right, so every day they're handling, and money's really dirty and grubby.
Oh.
They're handling money every darn day, and they get their paycheck, and it's peanuts.
Right.
I mean the temptation, I would think, unless you're a God-fearing straight across the board, and even those can be tempted at some point.
Oh yeah.
That there's an opportunity here to take from the till.
It's not worth it, though.
Of
That'd
course,
be-
it's
that'd be-
absolutely
that'd
not, and they
be a
all
federal
understand
thing,
that.
man. Yeah.
They all understand that. I mean, the amount of time that you have to do for the little bit of compensation you make isn't even worth it.
You don't have to look
I
too
get. I mean, especially with the casinos and stuff. I mean, well, back in the day, used the money that was on the table, the slot machines. There was silver dollars, silver dollars that went in those machines, and they had the chips. They had the different colored chips, but they had the ones that I liked were the ones that were the gold chips. Back in the day, they had had gold in them.
Oh yeah.
Gold flakes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just gold plated, but it was still gold. These $100 chips, they weren't black chips; they were gold chips back in the day. I mean, just to see one, and not to touch it, just to see it was cool.
Temptation was there, and of course there's cameras everywhere, and people would still try and do it. But if their drawer came up short, then
It's short.
too many times, then
Yeah.
and we cycle through a lot of people that way.
Now, what if there's
unfortunately.
somebody out there listening to the program and they have a blemish on their record, whether it's from a credit standpoint or from a criminal standpoint? What are, again, some, that's a legitimate
What kind of
question, right?
limitations do you have?
So-
Well, the thing they got to remember is that regardless of what situation they're in, that's the bottom if they want it to be. In other words, they don't have to keep digging. If they get back on their feet, I've met so many vets that have had felonies, that have had prison time, that have had a bunch of different things that go on in their lives, and yet they realized that they had a choice in the matter. They picked themselves up. They either got educated or they got a basic job, and they started working their way back up and get themselves back on their feet. And they've had incredible successes.
Well, and that's where the mentoring that he's talking about probably comes into play.
Yeah. I met a guy not too long ago. He was at UNR getting his legal degree, and he spent years in what's the big San Quentin prison.
Man. Wow.
And he was getting his legal degree so that he would become a lawyer and help other vets.
So he started in there and then just is finishing up, following through now.
And that's incredibly impressive young man.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of feel good times, right? There's frustrations you guys must deal with, but can you both share your most favorite feel-good story of how you helped somebody that was maybe a little down and out, and then they pulled their bootstraps up?
Well, FYI, the big house is not San Quentin anymore. It's Pelican Bay, and that's where all the worst of the worst go now. San Quentin is just another state penitentiary, I believe it's got. So go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, my feel-good was one of my very first clients. I had one of the very first people. He walked in off the street. Car broke down, didn't have a job, was promised a job. He used to work for UPS back in Connecticut. Thought he could come out here and get a job, and that wasn't the case. So we got his resume up to speed, and he was living, thankfully, through a program similar to Nation's Finest, where he had some housing. He would just take the bus everywhere. So he said, I would not mind warehouse work. Fortunately, he had a phone, a device, so he could use that. He didn't have a laptop, so he could look up jobs. We looked up jobs together. I think we even applied for one. And we like to do that with the vets, apply together so we can show them the process if they've never done it before. Because, again, a lot of vets have never applied for a job other than when they went into the service,
right,
so to speak. It took a couple weeks, and he did some interviews, and he got a job at one of the warehouses up North Valleys.
Really?
I haven't heard any different, so I would hope he's still there, and he was just, happier than a clam to have a job, have a roof under his head. Yeah. So typically, we don't follow up. Sometimes I hear from clients I've had, and
it's like one of those no news is good news.
I would love to. I mean, I love to hear from them. I mean, I follow up with my veterans at least biweekly. If I haven't heard from them, I ask them, let me know what's going on.
And what's the pay going for right now?
Typically, a warehouse can start $17.50 to $20 an hour. Some of them are a little more. They give the incentives, but they all have pretty decent benefits. Mm-hmm. The 2 weeks off, they have some PTO, some sick time, some 401 sharing, healthcare, big thing there. And just the environment where they work in, again, the warehouse we were yesterday. I mean, I really was very impressed with them. And so we're going to, push them as well, their jobs. Yeah.
What about your best feel good?
We had a young man come in one day, and he was struggling with some substance abuse issues. And we linked him up with some of the folks over at the VA, some of the counselors. He started getting mental health counseling. He started getting in with the Voc Rehab program to help him get some education. And he eventually became a peer support specialist over at the VA Naval Hospital or VA Medical Center. And he was actually helping other vets struggling through substance abuse issues. So he's actually giving back to his brothers and sisters. Love seeing people help other people. That's just one of the most rewarding things of our job, at least to me.
I could tell. That's great. You guys are doing great work.
We always want to shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Concerned Veterans for America, Ryan Gershman, and he's one of our sponsors. We always want to say thank you for your sponsorship as well as your service and the way you help as a volunteer organization. We always like to say thank you for that. And Jay and Ken, I really appreciate you guys coming and doing our show today. We're just a 1 hour show. As far as I'm concerned, what you guys do for our community, what you do for our veterans, and what you do for their families is just incalculably what a benefit that you guys are. And we really, really do appreciate what you do and how you do it and the fine professionalism that you do it with the services that you have and the ability to get our people a job and something worthwhile for their lifestyle. So thank you so much.
Let everybody know how to get in touch with the organization again.
And thanks for having us on, Ricky.
Hey, we
Guys,
always want you
appreciate
guys back. Yeah.
So if you'd like to call us, a good phone number to reach us would be 775-384-5812. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. You can also go onto our website, www.workforwarriorsnv.org, or if you want to take the easy route, just Google Work for Warriors Nevada. You can register on the website, and as soon as you do, we'll reach out to you and connect with you.
All righty.
All right. Well, we always say thank you to our veterans, thank you to our first responders, and thank you to the community that always helps our veterans out there. This is Military Matters. We'll be back this week sometime and talk to you again.